Hello. This topic is called Let's Talk Interview. I worked at Apple. And in this topic, we will be looking at the verb tense, the affirmative simple past. This verb tense is the most basic way to express something that has happened in the past for a specific period of time. In the past means that it happened already and it is over, it's completed, it's finished. We can use the simple past to state a fact or state a being from the past that has finished. As in the examples, I was happy, she was a candidate, Apple sold more iPhones than expected, George Bush was president of the U.S. Or we can use it to state something that was a routine or a daily action that was done habitually in the past. As in these examples, I worked for Microsoft, they fired me from Microsoft, we made a cake for Mom's birthday, she had a great CV. When we form the affirmative simple past, we take the subject, we add the verb in the past tense, which we often see called the preterite, then we add the rest of the sentence. On the left side, we have a list of verbs, a list of sentences in the present simple, and on the right, in the past simple. I am happy becomes I was happy. I work for Apple becomes I worked for Apple. She is a good candidate becomes she was a good candidate. Apple sells more iPhones than expected becomes Apple sold more iPhones than expected. We must pay attention because the pronunciation for certain words in the simple past often changes. A lot of verbs will end in ed, but they can be pronounced with the end of the word being an s or an ed, or for example, with the verb wanted, it ends in ed, it's pronounced wanted, but for the word worked, it ends in ed, but it's pronounced worked, as if there were a T. Let's look at some words or some phrases we might use in an interview when using the simple past. I work at Apple becomes I worked at Apple. I create the iPhone. Apple makes lots of money. Now I am very, very rich. I know I can make a great product for your company too. This might be something we want to hear in an interview. So all this in the simple past then becomes, I worked at Apple, I created the iPhone, I made a lot of money, then I was very, very rich. I knew I could make a great product for your company too. I think that maybe Mr. Gates, he might like that, and he might think that he'd want to hire you if you had an interview with him. Big thumbs up. Just to recap, here is a list of verbs in the affirmative simple past. There are lots and lots of different verbs in the English language, and they change in the past. Some of them add an ed, some of them change completely from ink to ought, some change from a certain letter to another letter. Sometimes a lot of them will end in ed, but they're all very different. So we just have to become more familiar with them and speak the most we can in English. Here are some choice verbs that I chose that I thought were very useful, that we hear a lot when speaking in English and when talking to people in English. To be, to work, to think, to make, to know, to have, to want, to sell, and to go. To be becomes was, to work becomes worked, think becomes thought, to make becomes made, to know becomes knew, to have becomes had, to want becomes wanted, to sell becomes sold, to go becomes went. I hope that you've enjoyed this lesson today, and stay tuned for our next topic. Let's talk interview. I'm a loser because I did not work at Microsoft. Bye-bye.